And hello, everyone, and welcome back to Stop, Collaborate, and Listen, the podcast where we talk about eating disorder recovery, body image, movement, and the messy realities of being a human. Hello, everyone. My name is Jen.
And I'm Allison, and today we are joined by Bri Campos, also known as Body Image with Bri, alongside our favorite returning guest, Cilla Moore-Massey. We are excited today to talk about body grief, body image, and what it means to build a relationship with your body in a culture that's constantly asking us to change it. So both of you, we are super excited to talk. I know Jen and I were just saying we're fangirling about having such cool guests on today, and for it to be a summer Friday just feels like good vibes all around. So thank you guys for being here.
Yes.
Thank you for having us.
How are you both doing today? Tell us about your weeks, about your Fridays. What's going on?
Phil, you want to go?
Yeah, well, it's so funny because we were talking before this aired about how Jen just wishes I could bring the beach to Indy, and I don't want to rub it in, but I am having a beach bonfire tonight. So I'm
cool.
really excited about that. It's finally cooling down and it's giving fall, which you all know I love fall. So me and Bri both, actually.
Yes.
And you got
so
out of Indy
fall.
just in time because shit's bad here. It's flooded everywhere.
Oh my gosh, I know. I'm actually coming back next week.
Yay.
Come say hi, okay?
Yeah, please.
I know that's hard though when you're I almost don't want to tell people when I come home because then you have to hit all the stops and it's quite the journey because you're a celebrity coming home.
Of course.
We'll be living vicariously through your beach party tonight. Do you have a theme?
No.
The theme is beach.
Theme is beach, yeah. Zach is going to rock hunt, and I am going to try these new gluten-free graham crackers that I found at my fair. So I'm really excited about that.
Did you say rock hunt?
Yeah.
What?
Tell us more about the rock hunting.
So in Michigan, they're how the Great Lakes were carved out from the glaciers, right? From the Ice Age. Okay. Well, there are fossils that have been there for billions of years, and Lake Michigan sometimes will just, give you lots of different opportunities to find these fossils. So there's lots of different rocks that have these fossils printed on them. And so it's just really fun. Me and Zach collect them, and we do lots of little fun things with them. We'll put them through a tumbler and make cute things. I don't know. It's just fun to find what you either find the fossils or also just find really cool rocks, because I don't know, rocks are interesting.
Really cool.
So cool. Very fun.
That sounds so fun. So fun. Love it. What about you, Bri? What's going on with you?
Well, yeah, I totally had forgotten the question. So I'm nothing if I'm not vulnerable. I do love the fall, but I also struggle from seasonal affect in the summer, which is not as common. Most people get it in the winter. So summer is historically harder for me. I know we were talking about we rescheduled earlier in the summer because my capacity was just far less than my capability. And so I am very excited that summer is on its way out and that fall is on its way in. And just trying to take it, one day, one moment at a time, and and just be able to be present when I show up. So I'm excited to be here today.
We're so excited to have you both.
Bri, I have to know, what is your favorite fall activity that you're looking forward to?
I mean, truly, I'm a homebody. My mug literally says homebody. So I really just love seeing the leaves change. It's just such a beautiful opportunity to see how, change isn't always a bad thing. And I live in the mountains of New Jersey. And so I call my house a tree house, and it's just going to get so gorgeous and I can't wait. But that's my favorite fall activity. Just watching the leaves change.
Well, and it's different every year. So it's always a little surprise of what you're going to get.
Yeah. I'm that girl who will stop and be I got to get a picture. And it's never as beautiful in my picture as it is in real time.
Yeah. I love fall as well. And so, I'm with you of just I just want, where I moved, there's not a lot of trees, but to be in the mountains of New Jersey in a treehouse, Dreams.
Like,
That sounds so
painting.
beautiful.
People are like, there are mountains in New Jersey. I'm like,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah. Got you.
I live there
So fun.
outside of civilization.
Nice. We love that. All right. We ready to dive in?
Let's do it.
So, are you,
Let's do
Jen?
it.
How are you? Are you doing anything fun this weekend?
That's a great question. I'm going to make this weekend fun. So speaking of having to reschedule podcast recordings, I have asthma and I had a bit of a rough flare up on Wednesday. I'm telling Allison, I can't really breathe and I have heart palpitations, but like, I'll be there. I can do the recording. And she's like, girl, which I'm so glad she did because I did not. I just laid in my bed and read ACOTAR for the night because I just could not. I just finished book 3. I love it.
Is this your first read through?
This is my first read through. I didn't want to read it.
So
my
jealous.
bestie was like, you got to read it. You got to read it. I'm like, I tried it a couple years ago. I didn't really love it.
The first book, like halfway through. Just do it. You just have to.
I'm so glad that she made me do it because I love. So yeah, so I read that. So I am doing better. I am on some not so fun steroids that I have to take for my asthma. It's definitely, I'm feeling a little bit better today. So this weekend I am planning to just like do crafts and read and lay around my apartment and rest because I do not want to be down for the count next week as well. So yeah, just a chill weekend. How about you, Allison?
Also looking forward to a very chill weekend. We traveled to Vincennes the past 2 weekends for different events. So very glad to just be landing here. I think we're going to do an Eagle Creek hike with my sister. And that's like it. Like maybe some like dumb little things at TJ Maxx and Marshall's. Like we need a new paper towel holder and like a couch cushion and like glass Tupperware. So it feels like a good excuse to go check things out. Also, I've been recommending lately like the snacks at the checkout to my clients, like especially ones like that like need weight restoration that have like no idea where to branch out from their snacks. I'm like, go have a field day at the TJ Maxx checkout because dark chocolate pistachios and the like all the nut and fruit and like weird flavor stuff. And of course there's like 1800 Dubai things still because we're still on that trend. But yeah, what a tangent. But the TJ Maxx checkout is where it's at.
They've got good stuff. They've got real good stuff there. So you're not wrong.
Not expired too. So, and not yet recalled, when.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Let's get to our guests. Let's talk about you both and then talk with you both. So we obviously are joined today by the incredible Bri Campos, also known as Body Image with Bri. She is a licensed professional counselor, a body image educator, and the creator of the Body Grievers framework, which we're going to talk about today. Through her clinical expertise and lived experience, she helps people navigate the messy, uncomfortable, and often unavoidable grief that comes with existing in a body. She is also the host of the Body Grievers Club podcast, where she brings refreshingly honest and compassionate approach to body image conversations. Bri, we're so excited you're here. I've been following your work for a long time. I tell my clients about body grief. I refer them to your podcast. I'm really, really excited to chat with you today. So
thank you so much. What a beautiful intro. I really appreciate it.
And we are also welcoming back our friend Cilla. Cilla Moore-Massey is a licensed clinical social worker, certified intuitive eating counselor, eating disorder recovery and body image coach, and a passionate girly who's advocating for helping people reconnect with themselves outside of diet culture. Her work is deeply informed by both clinical training and lived experience, which allows her to bring a perspective that's both compassionate and incredibly honest. Cilla, thanks for joining us from your beach in Michigan today.
Yes. Our absolutely most favorite recurring guest. You've been on like 4 or 5 podcast episodes so far. So you're the OG coming back. We're excited.
I know we introduced you guys, but is there anything else that you would like our listeners to know about you in general or as it relates to the episode we're about to talk about?
Well, I would like to actually also share about Cilla. She also does some really incredible work for small businesses and entrepreneurs, especially for, intuitive eating, health at every size providers. I believe it's called, right, the kinship folk. Priscilla, am I saying that right?
The Kinfolk Creative.
The kinship folk creative. So yeah, so Cilla and your husband now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, congratulations. So it's been so exciting to see you do that work. So I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes. I love your weekly newsletters as well. I have your one
So
from this
good.
week. It's unread because I haven't read it yet, but I'm excited. So
Yeah,
I
you need to dive in. It's juicy.
tell her
I'm
I
here for it.
never open emails, but I open hers.
Yes. Yes. There's something about them that I'm just like,
They're just
Shit.
bite-sized. They're
Love it.
great.
I don't know if I'm subscribed. I gotta go do this like now. Okay. What are you doing?
you got to
What
get
am
on there,
I
girl.
doing?
Maybe let's start with body image before we get into body grief. Bri, you often say that body image is more than just simply liking or disliking your appearance or your body. Tell us a little bit more. How are you defining it? How has that definition changed over time?
Sure. I remember actually the first time I was asked to define body image on a podcast, I was like, no, I know it, but I don't actually know how to describe it. And I really didn't like the definitions I was seeing, which is like what you see when you look in the mirror or see a reflection of yourself. And I found this definition by confidentbody.net that described body image into 4 aspects. And that, yes, the perception of your body, how you see yourself, is one aspect of body image, but it is also your affect, how you feel about the way your body looks, your cognitions, the beliefs about your body, and then the behaviors that are connected to it. And so when I say body image is not just about liking or disliking your appearance, it really is also how are the feelings connected to the cognitions. And while the world and diet culture will tell you, well, if you change what you see, you can change how you feel about it. I say, if you change what you believe, it won't matter what you see or how you feel about it.
Yes, to that last bit. I love that definition. It's so much more encompassing of what it means,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that.
And I think it goes so hand in hand with everything we see that they're constantly drawing the connection for us that like you change this, you feel this. And like it's not just inferred. I think it's always presented.
Correct.
This is the path.
And the question I like to ask people is for how long? Because if you have changed your appearance and liked it, but then it changed again and then you don't, you never really had better body image. You just had body satisfaction, which is still based on European white centric beauty standards of what we are supposed to look like, what we're supposed to like, what we look like. But what I find for most people is if we can really begin to unpack the stories that we're telling ourselves about what we don't like or what we're seeing, those beliefs were never ours to begin with and often don't even align with the values that we hold. And people will say they have this right cognitive dissonance of, I know that I shouldn't care what people think about me, but I still do. And I call that the head to heart disconnect. And that is because we are focused solely on the perception, but we're not really digging in to the cognition. And so we spend so much time up here. If you think about like layers of dirt, that initial perception is that catalyst moment, is that, oh my gosh, my clothes don't fit or my body's gained weight. And if we just stay there, if we change the body, then if we can end up there again, you're going to have the same, if not worse reaction. But if we can pause and say, why is this so bad? What story are we telling ourselves? Where did these beliefs come from? That when your body changes, when clothes don't fit, they won't hold the same meaning if you do the work to unpack those beliefs.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I mean,
So much wisdom.
clip on clip on clip. I mean,
Yeah.
I also love that so much too. I mean, as clinicians, I think we all see that with our clients, right? Like, I don't like how this feels. I don't like this part of what my body looks like, so they want to change it. And I think too, one of you might have mentioned at the beginning that like the standards for bodies, particularly women's bodies, is an ever moving target, which means it's not going to be sustainable. And we're
You can't
always going to be, yeah. So instead of trying to change all the time, I love how you're saying, like, let's get to the root of it. So like, we don't have to keep adapting and changing all the time.
Cilla, would you say any other definitions of body image that you wanted to add to that? No, I think that Bri like hit it on the head. I think that one of the things that I always come back to is your like body image is not so much about an opinion about your appearance, but it's more so about the relationship you have with your body. And just like what Bri said, like, all of those, the thoughts, the feelings, the behaviors, all of that connects to the relationship that you have with your body. And so that's the word that I always come back to when I think about body image. It's not just like one thing, one idea in a silo. It's a very complex thing that is honestly evolving day after day after day.
So it's not just like self-esteem or confidence, which is how I think those terms kind of get blurred together sometimes. Is there a difference, or maybe can you speak a little more to the difference between body image and confidence or self-esteem?
Yeah, I think when I think about like body confidence, I think about like, you can feel hot as hell one Saturday and then hate your body on Tuesday morning. And so if you are basing your entire relationship on how you felt on Saturday with your body, you're going to be very disappointed in that relationship come Tuesday morning. And the difference between those two things is that confidence is a feeling where like a relationship is something that can be healthy without feeling super jazzed or positive all the freaking time, right? Like you don't have to feel confident to have a healthy relationship with your body 24/7.
I also think that people hear like a relationship with your body and they think, I don't want to have a relationship with my body. I don't want to love my body. And I like to take away the expectation that you have to love your body. But I'll often equate it to, it would be like saying, I will only love my kids when they behave. I will only love my partner when they meet all of my emotional, physical needs, and otherwise they're the enemy. And so we don't have to start with love, but we do have to start with respect and kindness. And oftentimes that's the very first point of people recognizing, wow, the way that I talk to and about myself isn't kind, isn't the way I would speak to anyone else. And then the way that you speak to yourself exponentially impacts your self-esteem and how you feel about it. And confidence is not feeling nervous. Confidence is, I like the word self-assurance, that you are without doubt that you will be able to accomplish a task or survive whatever comes your way. And so you can be a confident person and still get nervous to go on a date or to give a presentation or speak on a podcast. They don't disqualify each other, but the idea or the notion that your body can be the thing that makes you confident it's just a fallacy.
Yeah. I'm hearing with all of this too, thinking about like the binary that exists in our culture of like you're confident or you're not, you hate your body or you love your body, right? And so I think both of these have spoken to the fact that it's more fluid. It's more of like this in between and what it can look like versus I have to be on this side or this side with it.
So shifting into body grief, Bri, you talk, obviously you have a Body Grievers podcast, Body Grievers Club podcast, and body grief is central to your work. Can you define that term for us and tell us a little bit more about what that means?
Yeah. So the way that I define body grief is the real or perceived loss that causes distress accompanied with one's body change. I'll repeat that again. So it is not just the real loss, but it's the perceived loss that causes distress accompanied with body change. And what I love about this definition that I've sort of created for it is it doesn't just have to do with you losing weight or gaining weight, but this works for a body that becomes sick or ill. This works for a body who is going through puberty or menopause. This also works for folks who are in transition and with gender dysphoria. The way I would approach body grief for gender dysphoria would be way different than how I approach it for any of these other aspects. But it's not just that your body has caused you loss or the way that your body has changed has caused loss. It's that loss causes you distress.
And how do you keep that a central part of your work? Obviously, more with eating disorders.
Yeah.
Or just those challenges that we might directly work with our eating disorder clients.
Yeah.
Any examples of like body grief that you can talk through?
Yeah, I would say probably the most common ones that I hear people will say is the grief of not fitting into clothes that they have or that they love, grieving accessibility in the world. And I would say, some of this is like systemic oppression. But then there's also, grieving the thin ideal, grieving the body you thought you were supposed to have, grieving the identity. Especially I have folks who maybe used to identify as athletes, or, they were dancers, and now that their body has changed, these things are far more difficult, or they sustained an injury. And so the way that I find that grief comes up is if we're familiar with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who created the stages of grief. What I find in eating disorder work is we want to go from the discomfort right into the reframe, right into that acceptance of, well, what can you be grateful for your body? And what's some reframes that we can come up with? Or my least favorite, like affirmations, like let's say 5 nice things about your body. And I remember as a fat therapist in eating disorder recovery who didn't know they had their own eating disorder. Can I curse on this podcast?
Absolutely.
Okay. I was like, this is shit. And I wouldn't even do this for myself. And so for me, instead of pretending that I wasn't missing out on accessibility, instead of pretending that it didn't bother me, that people will look at me and my body and make assumptions about me, instead, I invited the opportunity for myself to just acknowledge the quiet part out loud, and to, what I say, sit in the suck. And that by sitting in the suck, by making space for grief, it allows us to actually go through so that we can get to what I call radical body acceptance, which is a little bit of like radical acceptance and body acceptance. And and my definition for that is the willingness to receive my body as it is, not as I wish it to be. Acceptance is not, I love my body, I like my body, I am happy with my body. Acceptance is, this is my body. And what we find, especially for people in recovery, people stuck in diet culture, is in those stages of grief, they get stuck in the bargaining phase, which is, maybe I can still fix this. Maybe this time, something else will work. And especially in the Ozempic era, we are seeing that more than ever. We are seeing people who are like, why didn't this exist 10 years ago? And I feel like I'm missing out if I don't try it. And that is all it is bargaining. It's the bargaining of, maybe I don't have to sit in the suck of the grief that will come if I don't receive my body as it is.
Yeah. I'm thinking of my own experiences here with my body as like we're talking about this, which is just interesting timing in general. But I'm agreeing with you on the bargaining phase, is that it 100%, I feel like clients are there, which a portion of it at least comes from diet culture, because there's always something that we can like try to do, right? And so in your experience, Bri, and even Cilla, like even in your experience with clients as well, like what are you finding that it is about sitting in the suck that people are like, absolutely not? I mean, it doesn't sound fun to sit in the suck, right? I tell it to clients. I'm like, I'm here with you, right? But like, yeah, what have been some of the things that you've noticed in both of you, like in your work with clients, around moving from bargaining into the suck, into the sadness, like all of that?
Cilla, why don't you go first?
Okay, yeah. I think one of the things that I find is, one, sitting in the suck is not sexy by any means.
Say it again, girl.
Like, I don't think anyone on the street would volunteer, yep, I want to sit in the suck today and talk about all of these negative feelings and associations I have about my body, right? Like, no one would volunteer to do that. And so I often find myself as like the role of the provider is coming from a place of like, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that clothing accessibility doesn't change, or medical bias doesn't exist, or fatphobia doesn't exist, or that there's people out there who aren't going to say shitty things to you about your body, or judge you, or look at you a certain way, right? Like, and so when we think about sitting in the suck, I'm bringing that to the forefront of like, okay, this is why we are sitting in the suck. Because if we keep coming back to the place of like, well, I don't love my body, or I want my body to look this way, like, there's always going to be some type of solution out there that will promise you a fix for that. But there isn't necessarily a GLP-1 out there, I'll just use that as an example, that's going to make you feel safe when someone says something shitty to you. There isn't going to be some type of fad diet out there that's going to make you feel confident when you walk into a store and they don't have your clothing available. Your clothing is available. And so the importance of sitting in the suck is not necessarily like, I don't think it's really related to your body at all. I think it's actually related to what is activating, what about your body is activating this level of distress, and how can we move through that? That's what the important piece of sitting in the suck is for a lot of clients that I'm working with. And I think that distinction is really important.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I will always say to my body grievers, this is not the body positive group. This is not the radical body acceptance group. This is the body grievers group. Like, we are here to grieve, but we want to do so, one, in a trauma informed way. So when something we used to do in recovery would be like, let's do body image exposures. And somebody would be like, on a scale of 1 to 10, looking in the mirror is a 10. It would be like, great, that's your homework assignment. I think that that is unnecessary, that I think we can explore. I always say we can always find the lower hanging fruit because our brain doesn't have the knowledge that healing is possible. So why are we going to start with the most activating distress when our body has no idea that safety is possible? So if we start with something less activating and your brain is like, actually, that was survivable, then we can work up to being able to change those larger exposure wounds. I think that my sale for grief isn't that this is going to be fun or easy, but that it's necessary. And I think, especially in the US, I don't know in other cultures in the world, I think we suck with grief. Even if we think, people think grief is solely related to death, but that's bereavement. But even if we were to take that, it's like somebody dies on a Thursday, they're buried by Saturday, and we don't talk about it after 2 weeks. There's no way that that person has actually grieved. It takes a long time. And so I think what most of our clients do, because when they feel the grief or the shame or the discomfort or what I call distress in their body, that they do one of two things. They either push it down and say, nope, I don't want to feel that, or they will try to minimize it, or they will try to, silver line it, or they'll make some process through it, but then it comes back up again. And if it keeps coming back up, I like to think of it like swimming in the tide, right? If you're in the ocean and you are just resisting, all it's going to do is wear you out. But if you actually go with the tide, it's going to bring you back up on shore. And what I teach people is that the more well-versed you are with sitting in the suck, you will actually move through the grief cycle so much faster. It is the willingness to acknowledge, I don't actually have control in this situation. And I think that, especially as human beings, is so hard to reckon with, especially when the world is also telling you, this is your fault, this is your responsibility.
I love that bit about control at the end, because I feel like my experience of like being trained as an ed professional has been about like almost trying to like convince our clients that they actually do have control over their eating disorder and their journey to recovery. And I think that honestly just sets a lot of our clients up for failure. And that recovery culture really does screw our clients over, and even the work that we're doing, because it minimizes it to this like same idea that ed is rooted in. Like, I'll be okay when I look this way, or I'll be okay if I weigh this amount. And then recovery culture then becomes that. It's like, okay, well, I'll be okay if when I love my body. And it's the same trap. It's the same type of monitoring that honestly just like disqualifies all your self-trust. And then you get to the plate. Then when you have a body distressing moment, you're like, well, what the fuck? I thought I healed this.
Right. Right.
Why can't I feel body neutral? Why are all these other people so body positive? And I think it's because we're totally skipping that like that moment of sitting in the suck and sitting with that grief of what it actually is going to mean for our bodies to change, or for us to grieve the loss of our eating disorder, or for us to choose radical acceptance in a world that absolutely wants us to conform to whatever standard is trendy in that moment.
I'll also just add to that. I mean, not to shit on recovery centers, but like, I do think they're part of the problem. And like, don't worry, we're not going to let you get fat, or like, people like, oh, I think once you heal your relationship with your body, like, you'll find your set weight point. So we're giving this false hope that, okay, we just have to get to this point, and then we can, your body will change. And I think a lot of people feel lied to. I think even with intuitive eating, same thing. There's this premise of like, well, if I'm doing intuitive eating right, there's no way that my body could be this size. And what it's absent of is the intersectionality of it. This is beyond just what your body looks like. This is about anti-fatness, which is rooted in racism, and that somebody profits from these systems of oppression. And there's a quote by Kim Shernan that says, "The tyranny of slenderness is not just a personal matter. It's a cultural obsession that keeps women preoccupied with their bodies and less able to challenge the status quo." And when we can stop outsourcing our trust to other people, you know, to doctors, to our recovery team, and we can say, actually, this doesn't feel right in my body, or this feels uncomfortable, but I know it aligns with my values. That's what then ultimately builds that body trust, that self-trust, and the confidence or the self-assuredness that we can move through this grief cycle and still land on our feet.
Just taking all that in, you both said so many incredible things that I would love to come back to. Like, I love that you both hit on the control piece and the self-trust piece in there. My initial question was going to be like, could we talk just a little bit more about how moving through grief is challenging living under the systems of oppression that we live under, and then how that can also make building self-trust challenging. So maybe just like, speak to like the higher systems and how that impacts moving through grief and establishing more self-trust.
Yeah, I mean, I think in when we are starting recovery or healing our relationship with our body, it's about our body. And I think that's the difference between body image healing and body liberation is no longer just about my body. It is about the collective. It is not just about how we treat fat people, but it's how we treat queer and trans people, how we treat Black people, how we treat immigrants. And a lot of times in recovery spaces, we keep politics to the side. We keep intersectional identities to the side. We put body image to the side and just focus on weight restoration. And so, for somebody who, what I find, and Cilla, I don't know if you find this, my folks who are already in a larger body or already have a marginalized identity, who are already experiencing the weight, no pun intended, of the systemic oppression, are far more willing to do the body grief work than somebody who has privilege or has had privilege, because they have known what privilege has felt like, has tasted like, has been like. And of course, you don't want to let go of privilege when you've had it. I don't feel like I ever had it, so it didn't feel like as much of a loss. So I don't know what your thoughts are.
No, this conversation hits really home for me because I feel like that is my exact lived experience of I recovered into a larger body and lost a lot of the privileges that I did have. And so the grief I feel like, was honestly just like a culture shock. It's like, shit, like this is why my family was so obsessed with being thin, because they didn't want us, like me and my siblings as kids, to experience that depression. And I know it was coming from a place of love and coming from a place of like, I don't want you to feel like this, because they needed to do their own work in that body grief moment, but they didn't have you then. So
I also think that one of the things that sort of began to be a catalyst in the shift of my thinking was my therapist asked me, name someone in your family or in your life who has a relationship with food or body image that you would want. And I couldn't name anybody. There wasn't anybody who I saw who had a free, healthy relationship with food, with body, with movement. I've had some friends who maybe I was like, they are, quote, normal around food. And now to date, I am the largest body person in my family. And I think I still have the most healed relationship with food, with body, with movement. And so I wouldn't trade the peace that I have for the privilege that they have.
Yep. And I totally agree. Like I find myself, I mean, I post about this on social media, always like throwing my dad out into the abyss with his negative comments. But it's truly like so empowering for me to be in this space of being able to look back and be like, wow, like I was so just like so immersed in this idea that my privilege was more important than my peace. And I think that a lot of people get stuck in that. And so that's why like when I'm like having these conversations with clients, like some things that I come back to is like you can't self-love your way out of structural stigma.
Yeah.
You can't you can't like there's just so much that goes into this work.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have different reasons why they're coming into this work. And a lot of times it's never their fault. Like, not their fault. And I think that sometimes we need to, like, I feel like we as a collective need to be having those conversations more because it's very easy to get caught into that trap of, or that like that way of thinking of like, well, it is my fault because that's what our culture and our society want us to believe.
Mhm.
And if you want privilege, then you have to earn it. You have to do the work to get to that place of privilege. And that's just it's fucked up.
I think people also presume that the only way to peace is through privilege.
Yes.
But when you can reject the expectations of society or the expectations of others and really subscribe to what your beliefs are, that's where the peace comes from. And this is something I'll do with clients is like, what's an area in your life where you don't give a fuck what other people think? And people will say my politics or my knowledge of my career or my skill or my ability as a parent or my, me being a good friend. And I'm like, so why is that unwavering? So if somebody says to you, well, you're a bad mom, you don't take it personally because you don't actually co-sign it. The reality is you are still co-signing the anti-fatness. And so the solution is not to not be fat. It's to unco-sign and rewrite that story around how you feel about fatness, not how other people respond to it.
When do both of you talk about systems of oppression and particularly fat phobia, internalized fat phobia with clients? I've had experiences where IOP program tried to do that. Other people like, we don't do that there. Obviously, it brings up a lot of feelings for people, again, particularly like you said, who already have privilege. And so how have both of you found those conversations going with clients? And when are you both personally kind of like introducing those topics to them in your work?
I'll just say quickly, like most people who work with me already know what I'm about. So it's very rare that somebody who is like, still wanting to be fat phobic is working with me. But when I was working in, well, when I was working in recovery, I still hadn't even unpacked my own anti-fatness. But the more I started to learn, I really had to just find how to meet people where they were at, holding the knowledge that I know. It kind of can feel like, I don't know, you think like that iceberg analogy where it's like, you just think it's on the top and it's like, just wait till you see what's underneath this. But yeah, most people who work with me, they know what I'm about and we talk about it right in the beginning.
Yeah. I think I feel like a lot of my clients come from that place of grieving the privilege that they experienced in their disordered body. And so I feel like there is some tension in those conversations a lot of times, but I'm a very blunt and direct therapist. Like I am very much like, we can have our internal relationship with our body. Like that matters. We have that. It matters. But if you want to actually get to a place where you are free from the chains of this body image distress that you have to actually look at where this problem originated. And in order to do that requires looking at all of the facts and the evidence in front of us and separating your responsibility for this distress and and actually calling out where this responsibility of distress came from. And I think that that shift is really helpful for them to see, because it's very easy to just blame ourselves. Like I said, very easy to just be like, oh, I'm the problem. My body's the problem. But that's not helpful for recovery, and it's going to keep you stuck. It's going to keep you stuck because anytime you have a distressful moment, you're going to come back to, oh, it's my fault, or I'm the problem. My body's the problem. I need to fix this. And that's why I come back to, no, this is structural stigma that we're up against, and it's not as rainbows and sunshine.
I also think it's a fallacy that it is their responsibility. And it's like, I'll use the analogy of like, imagine for all of us who have iPhones that 95% of us had issues with the iPhone. And then they were like, well, it's user error. We would be like, absolutely the fuck not. Like, give us a better product. And I would say, I think I find more rebuttal from people who are still actively holding their stance of weight loss is for my health and for my betterment. And here's the proof and the evidence that I have. And I will not deny somebody's experience. And I can continue to poke holes in your logic. And the dissonance is so evident, like, especially for people who are so socially justice conscious. I'm like, there's a conflict here. I don't know how you don't see it yet, but the more non-judgmental conversations we can have about that dissonance, people who are not ready to jump out of the diet culture boat, they're still stuck in the cult. I can't drag you kicking and screaming. But if you're in the water and you're like, I kind of want to go to that boat, but I'm afraid to leave that boat, I can meet you in the water.
Man, and these are all people working with us, like, that have people to support them. And it's still so hard. And I just, think about, obviously, I think, Jen, you just made a video on, the low percentage of people with eating disorders that actually even receive care. And so I just think of all the people that fall through the cracks that are still kind of fighting without the broader picture and in that cycle of blame and shame. And that sucks. I think you might have both touched on this a little bit, but just this idea that it's, of course, great if people can access care, and there might still be some harm that's done in eating disorder care. You mentioned this maybe like weight percentile, or we're not going to let you get in a larger body, or I think about like body tracing. Is there any other like glaring, outdated, or just things that maybe listeners that aren't eating disorder informed or think they'd like to get into eating disorder, like things that you would just really recommend not doing when it comes to body image work?
How long do we have?
We got all day here.
The time I plugged in my computer.
I mean, ultimately, I think the biggest mistake I think we make in recovery is saying that body image is the last step to come, and just like not dealing with the body image. And then it a lot of times people will have started to experience recovery. They feel like they have their feet on the ground, and then it feels like you just kicked them off a cliff when they're like, wait, when does the body image stuff change? Like, I thought it was just supposed to change, and it doesn't. The tracing, oh my God, we never did that. Yeah, I mean, so many groups where the prompt would be like, let's say affirmations, and my response was immediately no, like absolutely not. It's been almost 10 years since I've been in, 9 years since I've been in treatment. So what are your thoughts? What comes to mind?
I know it's been a while for me too to think about this, but I remember even just as a provider, I worked in a facility where we had to do body tracings with clients, and that was always just like, what's the fucking point here?
And I guess I didn't even like define that. From my understanding, like, draw what you think your body looks like, and then it's to like the goal is to prove like, oh, you're actually smaller than you think you were. Like,
but
is that correct?
If they accidentally drew themselves larger, because there is that other side of the spectrum of body dysmorphia, then you'd be like, okay, we're not gonna like trace yourself. It's like, what? Like, that's like, and then so then it's like, where do you go from here? Because there's no training in that level of space of being able to actually talk about the hard shit. which is the
And it's
structural
still,
sickness that's in the world that we're
yeah,
about to discharge you into.
no, instead it's like, let's hyper focus on body and make it all about body and even extra about body.
Well, and
Like,
it only focuses for thin people, because if I'm tracing my body, I'm like, I know what I look like, and so it really centers the 6% of people with anorexia who are underweight, and not the 94% who probably look more like me.
Yeah, I too do not subscribe to affirmations. I think that affirmations are bullshit.
And I think there are some times where it's like providers are well-meaning, where like, what can you be grateful for what your body can do? Or if you're struggling with movement, like, what if we just take a walk around the block? And this is where it becomes not intersectional. Like, you don't know what someone's ability or capability is. If somebody had told me when my mobility was struggling, just take a walk around the block, I'm like, a walk around the block is hard for me right now with the mobility struggles that I'm having. And again, like, we can give you actionable steps, but that to me is more fixing as opposed to just sitting with the feelings. And I think sometimes as providers, we want to rush through the yucky parts and give them something tangible to do. And it might work for a little bit of time, but it's not actually getting to the root.
so just for all the therapists that I have answering my cool questions, is there like one style of therapy that, like, this is going to sound so silly, like works for body image, or it really does not, or is it its own thing? Because I know, Bri, you mentioned like, we're not just jumping to reframes, like, and not that that's what I think, CBT all is, but I think about that a little bit. And I wonder, yeah, do you guys use a certain style of approach, FS, or a blend of things, or is it its own
Blend. I think that at the core root of the way that I treat body image is always coming from a trauma-informed lens. I think that that's the common denominator, no matter what like modality I'm pulling from, is I'm wanting to reduce as much harm as I possibly can when talking about body image.
Yeah. And I think being providers, being human, we're going to cause harm. Like, it's just inevitable. But reducing harm by having intersectionality, by understanding, like, it's not just about the body and there's so many layers here. And especially if there's multiple identities, that there's going to be something we miss, and just owning that. I would say, I mean, when I was in treatment, we did a lot of motivational interviewing, CBT, DBT, and I don't do any of those. I don't do most of those. I would say it's hard to do the cognitive behavioral therapy without also doing the somatic work and the embodiment work. And so we have to not just make body image a mind or brain thought issue, but we have to let the body know that it's safe. And historically, if it hasn't felt safe, that's where we have to start. And then I love IFS, and I love narrative therapy, and I love relational therapy. I love group therapy. I think that when others can witness their pain in someone else, it allows compassion for that person to then mirror to themselves. But I don't do a lot of exposure therapy. I don't do a lot of these other therapies. I also think for somebody starting off, I don't understand, why don't we do trauma therapy like right in the beginning? Why are we not doing EMDR or any sort of somatic therapy experience? Because it's not just fixing the mind, it's fixing the feeling of being unsafe. So,
Well, and I
like,
think to your point too, Bri, like I have also found that if clients are coming to me from a higher level of care, they have done a lot of that cognitive work. And then when I'm asking them to get curious or, to sit in the suck, they don't have the skills or the tools to actually know what to do with the feeling. They can identify the feeling. They can tell you all damn day what they're feeling. But what do they do with that feeling?
yeah.
What does that feeling feel like? And I'm not talking about not to like throw shade at this therapy practice. Sometimes there's a time and place for it. But I'm not talking about, name the feeling, tell me the shape of the feeling, the color of the feeling. Like, I'm not talking about that. Like, I'm talking about, what does it like actually feel like in your body? Where do you feel this feeling? And what is that feeling trying to communicate? Because when you actually have those skills to sit in the suck, then you're able to actually move forward when you have that feeling, because it no longer becomes as distressing as it was the very first time you felt it.
I don't know if there's going to be video, but I had a visceral reaction when you said like, what's the color? And I like vowed to like not be a corny therapist. I was like, so what do you feel that in your body from a intersectional place? A lot of neurodivergent people cannot feel it in their body. Or I had a client, like one of my things that I'll ask is like, what's going through your head right now? And I'll just see like panic. And I'm like, what did you hear? And just tell me what just happened. And it's like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm thinking. I don't know what I'm like, I just see you get quiet. So I'm just curious what you're experiencing. But there's no pressure. If you don't know, that's okay. And so, yeah, there can't be a carbon copy of how to work through body image with every single person, because every single person has a different lived experience, different trauma, a different environment, and all of these things will ultimately impact how a person recovers.
Really, yes, to all of that. I also want to just toss in, because it's been on my mind all week. I listened to If Books Could Kill episode around The Body Keeps a Score, and talking about very valid critiques, but in the end, it's kind of like it's CBT. You got to just talk about your trauma. And I've heard things recently about, eating disorder therapists not doing trauma and things like that. And I'm over here internally screaming, because it's like your body experiences what is happening to you. And so if we don't have a somatic component, we're missing a huge piece of things. So I love that you both hit on that. And again, like cognitively, we might know something, but if we have a feeling, an experience in our body, like with my asthma, I have a reaction and a feeling, and having to sit with that, I'm realizing, is incredibly scary. And so bless my therapist, it's like, let's do some EMDR around that. Like, let's do some body stuff, because I can cognitively, adult me knows I'm safe right now. I am not going to die. My body is like, try to convince me we're not right now. So it's like, we have to have that somatic component to it to really be able to have like a well-rounded and like really help the person move through it.
It's like telling a kid, like, there's no monsters in the closet. Like, you don't need to be scared. In the history of the world, when has that ever helped any child feel like, thank you so much for being so logical? And that's the other thing too, is I think, our clients are incredibly smart, and they can recognize the dissonance of, I know logically, but my body doesn't. And I'm like, yeah, that's the problem. That's the part that we need to fix. That's the part that needs the healing.
Thank you all. I was wondering if that was going to sound like what style do you use for this big problem? Almost like when people are like, what meal plan are you going to use? And I'm like,
sure.
A lot more deep than that. So thank you guys so much for that thoughtful response. Right. How we doing? Where we at? I think we want to talk about relationships, visibility, and being seen. But is there anything else that we may have? I think we talked a little bit about body obsessed culture, but anything that we want to dive into there?
I would just say, like, I think we are currently seeing a backlash from the quote body positivity movement from the last, 10 years. And we will be back there again once it's, profitable and popular, and all of the weight loss efforts inevitably fail until we find the next quote unquote solution. And so, yeah, it sucks. It sucks, especially if you are in the middle of feeling like the world is shrinking around you and you feel left behind and you feel left out. And this is where it's really important, is to figure out your why, and why are you recovering? Why are you choosing to recover? Because I think a lot of clients also forget, like, even when you were in a smaller body, you weren't happy then either. Life was not easy then. And that's the goalpost that's just always going to keep moving. And so, yeah, I mean, autonomy is real. You can go and follow the trends. We are not a cult. We're not going to say, oh, you can't come back in. We're always here. But diet culture is going to continue to profit from you every time you go back. And it is hard to sit in that dissonance. It's hard to sit in the suck. And that's why I always encourage people of, like, especially if you don't have friends or people in your world who are aligned with you in this, find people on the internet, find people who have podcasts that you can hold on to a semblance of the truth that you want to hold on to, because it's hard. It's hard out there.
How can finding people who are more aligned with your values, with calling out intersectionality and anti-fat bias and things like that, how have you seen that impact your clients? Because it's something that like I encourage clients to do as well and have resources, but yeah, just curious like what you both have seen in your practices with clients being able to find more people who they vibe with.
In terms of like, how is it for them to find support, or what happens when they do?
Yes. Yeah. Or both. I'll take both. But yeah, definitely want to know what happens like when they do.
Yeah. So Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who created Stages of Grief, has a quote, actually she has two, that grief shared is grief abated, and that grief needs to be witnessed to be healed. And I could work with somebody one-on-one for a long time, and I see such a radical change when their grief gets to be witnessed by someone other than me, somebody who's where they are. I liken it to, grief being this like dark tunnel where we cannot see the light at the end. And when you can't see the light at the end, that is a very hopeless feeling. And I can tell you till I'm blue in the face, I know there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but if you don't see it, it just might feel like gaslighting. But if we can look for the people in the tunnel with us, we can focus on the here and now. We can feel that support. We can change the vibe. Even if it sucks, we're going to sit in the suck together. And I see such radical healing in community that I don't see as quickly with one-on-one.
Can you maybe tell us a little bit about any, like, just getting personal, getting vulnerable, any narratives that you've had to personally unlearn when it comes to maybe just visibility, right, being seen?
And I'm going to speak from lived experience, but I think that one of the things that I have learned over the last few years, last summer, I did like a 2-piece bikini on tour where I like wore a 2-piece bikini to all these different beaches because I had this narrative that, or this idea or belief that if I looked a certain way, I could only wear 1 piece. I was not allowed to wear a 2-piece. And when I started to think more about that, like, yes, there was these ideals and beliefs that were contributing to that, but there also was this fear of myself being seen in a 2-piece bikini. And like, what would people think if they saw this girl in a 2-piece bikini? Or, and then I had to think about like, well, why does that actually matter to me? Like, I don't, my values don't align with that way of thinking. And so I think that one of the things that I've had to unlearn is being able to exist in my here and now body without having to apologize for it, without having to make an excuse for it, without having to explain any freaking thing about it. Like, it's just here, it's just existing. And that has created so much self-trust and confidence in myself, and knowing that I don't need, like, I literally wore a 2-piece bikini all summer long this year and didn't even think 2 things about it. Where last year it was like this big exposure therapy thing for me. But this year it was not a big deal. It was just like, I feel like wearing this bikini and this bikini, like whatever. And I know that's still coming from a place of privilege in my body size that I do live and exist in. But I do think that it also contributes to that narrative that I have had to unlearn. And I know a lot of clients and folks who are in that space of body healing do have to unlearn. And I think it's like having a hard time finding the words to describe it, but it's almost like this rebellions against societal norms, I guess.
Yeah, I would say for me, I mean, there's so many to pick from. So before I was, health at every size, before I was aware of, body liberation work, and was still disordered myself while working in eating disorder recovery, I remember I would recite the lines that I was taught that I know were acceptable, right? Like, I'm just losing weight, but it's not about the weight. It's about my health. And I had a therapist that pushed back, and I, like, bless her. I was like, I'm sorry. Nobody pushes back to that. Everybody likes that answer. And she said, well, how do you define health? And I said, I imagine health for me looks like eating a variety of foods, moving my body, and not feeling out of control with food. And so she said, well, based on that definition, you're healthy. And I was like, no. I also need to be thin. And she pointed out the dissonance. And I remember getting mad. I was like, nobody pushes back on this one. And she asked the question of, and let's just say worst case scenario that you don't, what are you most afraid of? And it shocked me that it had absolutely nothing to do with health and everything to do with that no one will ever love me in this body. And so fast forward now, oh my gosh, I don't know, 10 years or so. I'm in what I call is my dating era. And I have gone on way more dates than I ever have in my entire life. And it is so funny that we were talking about, the confidence of, if I start to feel nervous or anxious before a date and it's like, okay, what's the worst case scenario? I'm like, oh, he won't like me for my body. I'm like, I don't care about that. But then still feeling nervous and you're like, what the fuck? And so recently I'd been talking with a guy and it ended. And I felt that parts split where there's a part of me that is so confidently, if I am too much, go find less. And that you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. And this part over here is wounded part that fears being too much. And that was always there. It was just hidden under the guise of my fatness is my problem. And we were talking about Parks and Rec before we came on. And so there's this scene that I use inside of my body grievers course. And it's the scene when Ron breaks the coffee machine and he's like, who did it? And I think that's what our brain does is like, okay, well, this feeling is bad. Who's at fault? And then, as we all know, Ron goes, I broke it. It's getting too chummy around here. I think our brain is always going to look for the scapegoat. Whose fault is it? And when we can teach our brain that you don't have to pretend you don't feel this way, but we also don't have to co-sign that this feeling is true. If we can sit and say, I was like, great, I have something to talk about in therapy. This is awesome. And I think people assume because we're providers or because we're teaching this stuff that, we don't struggle anymore. And I was like, that's not realistic. I don't struggle with the things that I used to, but we've just gone deeper into the body image dig and into the self-esteem dig of what's underneath. And I think things are revealed to us at the right time. And we were never going to jackhammer away all the way down to the bottom and be like, I am healed and I have reached self-actualization, like Maslow said we were supposed to.
So good. And I'm glad that you highlighted that. Yeah, even as providers, we have our own, we're humans.
Yeah.
We're humans who are providers. We have our own stuff. Can you both talk to us about ways that you are now taking up space? And also I'm going to add to what has it been feeling like for you to take up space? Because I think sometimes that can feel really scary, particularly if we have that belief of, oh, I'm too much.
Well, I know I had made a post on this at one point. I think it was 2017. The scariest thing I did at the time was go into a bagel store and order a bagel for myself. And in 2023, the scariest thing I did that year was buy a house. And I think the more space you allow yourself to take up, the more you get to dream again. The bigger the risk, but greater the reward. And I actually remember when I bought my house, I specifically didn't tell anybody because I said, I am very sure that this is the right decision for me. And I know there's going to be a lot of naysayers and that will shake my confidence. So I didn't tell anybody. And I was like, once the paperwork's done, I can't change it. And it made people mad, but I knew that that's what I needed to do to protect my peace. So yeah, I mean, I'm dating, I'm a homeowner, things that I just never thought would be possible. And thinking back to 2017, 2016, thinking that my life's mission was to try to change my body size. And for that to not even be even on my radar anymore. It's like the world has just been filled with so many possibilities.
Goodness. I have quite a few actually. Trying to figure out which one to share.
You can share all of them if you would like.
the biggest things that I did this year, and I remember literally texting Bri about this when I did it. And I was like, hey, I'm closing my private practice in Indy and I'm moving to Michigan and I'm running this other business full time and I'm not going to be a therapist full time. And I'm like, what the F is going on? And I think that in a lot of ways, this work has been so incredibly like healing, even just for my own recovery, because I always said I would become the therapist that I once needed. And I think that has definitely happened. But I also, and there's still a passion for doing this work. But I also think that I have learned over the last few years that I don't have to only be a therapist. I don't have to be specifically a therapist that talks about eating disorders and body image, right? Like I've lived a lot of my like personal life in that realm, and professionally it just made sense because I know a lot of shit about it and have a lot of passion for it. But also I'm a multi-hyphenate human. Like I want to be building Legos all damn day. I want to be writing, and not just writing for the sake of talking about, like this work, but I'm wanting to write because it's fun and creative. And so I've just been finding a lot of joy in making decisions that have literally nothing to do with this work. And that for a long time was very scary. Like I felt like I was like being really impulsive and was making the absolute wrong decision in the moment. But now looking back, like I actually have come back out of these last few months just having so much more passion for this work now that I've created space for myself and honestly my identity from it.
I also think, like, I don't know how long ago you went to grad school, but I feel like I thought I knew who I was in grad school, and now I know nothing. And so, I didn't know I was neurodivergent, and one-on-ones and clinical notes are really hard for me. I was terrified to transition to coaching because I don't know, therapists love to shit on coaches, but I know that I can help people, but I had to stop pigeonholing myself into what's expected of me and instead what works for me. And so I have not been able to envision working a practice with, what do we do? Like 25 client hours a week and, signing off at the end of the day being like, wow, I have no energy for anything. No, but being willing to go against what's expected, going with what feels right and good for me. I don't think I would have given myself that permission when I was, God, I don't remember how old I was in grad school. I graduated 2016 versus now, 10 years later.
I love that both of those had to do with just so much life and career development, that's really not like food and body related, right? Like
Yeah.
the world is so much bigger.
It gets to be, right?
Yes.
When food and body isn't taking up your whole world,
Mhm.
it gets to be so much bigger than that. And that's something I'll ask clients of like, okay, if you didn't have to focus on food or body or movement or improving your health, what would you be focused on? And most people have no idea.
I think that can be scary to not have any idea, but like, I mean, everything that you both said, like there's so much freedom
Yeah, you
that
get to dream.
comes. Yeah.
Amazing.
And not being stuck in these boxes either, right? Like we can
Yeah.
step out of the boxes. Like it's lovely.
I think too, if you're a person who is like, you were the rule follower, you were doing it by the book, to not have an idea can be scary. And my best friend will say like, it's an adventure. And to start seeing it like that of like, I can't screw up. Like, sure, maybe things aren't going to go the way that I want to, but like, it's all for the plot. And the end is not written yet. And I get to forge that. And that is pretty cool.
I will co-sign that.
Yeah. Are there more things that you want our listeners to know about body grief, body image, your experience working with clients, anything that we've missed?
I would say that even if you're listening to this and you're like, I'm nowhere near this, that comparison is just an indication of a need that is afraid it can't be met. And like, keep your eyes on your own body image exploration and use what we've said here as inspiration, not as a blueprint of what it should look like for you. You are exactly where you're supposed to be. You showed up right on time. And yeah, and it just because you're not where you want to be now is not enough evidence that where you want to be is impossible.
Beautiful. We love that.
I
Love
need
that
that in
quote.
my head all the time. Like, you are right on time. Even when I'm perpetually
Yeah.
minutes late, I need Bri to say, you are right on time. Bri, you
It's
can be.
fine. Yes. So, okay. So we've got some, I don't think these are super rapid fire, but like a couple of closing questions for both of you. What is one thing that you are still grieving?
Well, I have one, and it's funny because my brain is already trying to like minimize it, right? But I call when we start to get hyper focused or hyper fixated on a part of our body, usually to me, like it's an indication of something going on. And I mentioned at the top of this episode struggling with some seasonal affect, and I have been hyper fixated on the bags under my eye, and I remember I like started like looking up like what's the solution, and I stopped in mid track. I was like, oh, this is the same spiral as somebody like Googling GLP-1s in the middle of the night. I know we've said a lot about GLP-1s. We believe in and respect autonomy. If you are on a GLP-1, like the power is yours. I think there's a lot of misinformation about them. And so they just seem like the easy quote weight loss target at this time. And so I haven't yet dug into it. And I'm like, it feels annoying. I'm like, I don't even do this with my body anymore. So where the heck is this coming from? I imagine probably the depression and sort of lacking capacity is frustrating, and it feels like it's out of my control. But looking up eye creams is so in my control. Looking up makeup packs is in my control. And then I think similarly, what I shared about, you know, dating and still having that piece of, not wanting to be too much and being able to celebrate that, wow, it's not even about my body anymore, but that wound still being there, something I'm still going to have to grieve, something I'm going to have to navigate.
Yeah. I also have some beef with the summertime related to sweat and chafing.
Oh,
Oof.
temporary nightmare.
And we were all talking about fall. I'm like, just the dryness. I can't wait for the
Yes.
dryness to fall.
Yes.
Also just get so overstimulated and like heat, and it feels like I literally just like cannot escape it. And one of the things that I think about is just like, I don't even know, like being able to not have to worry about those things, I guess, is something that I grieve sometimes, but also it doesn't necessarily mean that I wish for that moment. Like maybe an hour or two, but not anything to the point where I'm like, oh, I want to go back to that. But that is something that I still grieve for sure, because it is a nuisance and there's not enough support without having to spend like $60 on biking shorts that prevent it, or a little bottle of chafing like spray that lasts like for a week. It's just like so annoying. I'm just like, why is it this difficult to take care of myself and my needs in the summertime?
I will just add this since we're sharing all. It was like right before I went on a date and I was, putting on powder, and I said to this guy I was seeing, I was like, is this is sexy for you? Like that works for you? And he's like, you realize we put on powder too, but it's always been marketed for men, right? They have ball powder. They've always marketed to men. They've never marketed chafing for women, right? So it's been normalized for men, but not for us.
Get me started on women's health and women's
Yeah,
stuff.
I literally can't. We don't have the time.
We do not have the time.
You guys have both talked about things that you've made peace with, things you just explained, things that might be still grieving, and some things that are bringing you joy. It sounds like both career-wise. But if you have any other examples of maybe one thing that's bringing you joy right now that has nothing to do with our body. For me, it's Jellycats. I love Jellycats, and I have the little notification set up where anytime they release a new Jellycat, I'm immediately going and checking it out and seeing if I need it. I do need all of them, actually. but I cannot buy them all. I also love Woobles. I am a Wooble addict. Like I like any Wooble, I'm just like, I gotta have it, I gotta buy it, and I have like literally like 10 Woobles that
What's a Wooble? Yeah, tell us what these are. Is it the
Okay.
crochet thing?
it
No?
is.
Yeah.
It is.
Okay.
It's the Shark Tank crochet company. I love those things. It's literally like anytime I see one, I'm like, do I need it? No, I know how to crochet. I don't need like the actual little packet and like all the tutorials. I could just pick up my own pattern, but it's just so nice. It's like have y'all seen those videos from like Pop Mart where they like rip open the like surprise things? Oh my gosh, that's like what it feels like. It's like, ooh. And it's all like individually packaged. And I just feel like one of those little girlies where I'm like ripping it open. And then my husband's like, Wooble night. And I'm like, mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that.
Oh my God. Earl, have you heard of like Pokemon cards, baseball cards? There's so much shit you could just be opening and surprising yourself with.
Yes.
Cilla,
No
were you into those? Like, I wasn't into them. Like the purse stuffed animals. I can't remember what they were called.
Well, like,
I think I know.
What the heck was it called? Yes, a Labubu.
I was not, but my nieces are. They have like 3 different types of Labubus, and they will make sure to call out, like, if they see people in public, they're like, that one's fake. And I'm like, don't say that.
Gosh,
I didn't
that's so
understand
cute.
the hype, but people were like, we're going to open it. We're going to see. And I was like, oh boy.
That's wild.
Goodness. I would say for myself, 3 things are currently bringing me joy. I always hesitate to share when movement brings me joy, because I think in a previous time, if I heard that, it would feel like pressure from me, like, oh, see, I have to get back to movement. What I'm realizing though is I was so unmedicated back then that I would be like, wow, I feel so good after moving my body. And I was like, girlfriend, you were not medicated. So even in this rough season, having something consistent like doing Pilates has just been really grounding. I go with, a couple of my friends at different times, and I very much enjoy it. And if movement is a relationship that needs healing, it's okay if that's not your joy. I also I go through phases of reading, and so I'm currently in a reading phase. Something else that I previously would grieve because I didn't realize I was neurodivergent and had a learning disability. And so when I found audiobooks, it was like a game changer. Or immersion reading, which is reading the text and listening at the same time. And so, yeah, I've been listening to a lot of books. And then my other joy is getting my nails done. I actually get to go today after this call. I'm very excited. And I am being complicit with the beauty standard with full autonomy, and I'm here for it.
Yes.
I always say that when I wear makeup or when I do my nails, I'm like, yeah, I'm being complicit with beauty standards, but it wouldn't distress me if I didn't do either. Just maybe like a little disappointed that my nails don't look good or as cute as they do now.
That's cute. Yeah. I was gonna say, 'cause there's something about getting your nails done, at least for me, that I'm just like, I can breathe deep. It's like getting my hair cut. I'm like,
Yes.
everything is good. So
Did you get your hair cut, by the way? Girl,
we
oh my
chopped it
gosh.
off. We got it off.
I'm like, she's got bangs in front, like it's up. And I'm like, wait a second. You've turned
No, we've got some shave back here as well. My hair was like down to here. I was trying to grow it out, and I always get it to like shoulder length before I'm like, I hate this so much. So yeah, I had finally decided I was going short, and my stylist, Brittany, always does the thing, and she did it this time as well. So we're rocking.
I can just like see her like taking the cape off, and you're like, oh, I feel like myself again.
I know that's what it was. Like I tipped my head over so she could dry, and I came back up and I looked in the mirror and I was like, braced myself a little bit because I was like, oh my God, I feel like me. It looks so good. I love it. It was great. Speaking of great, this was such a lovely recording. We are so excited that we got to do this. Yes, thank you for joining us. Both of you, I'm assuming, have things that you could share with our listeners about how they could connect with you, work with you, learn more about you. So whoever wants to go first, tell us what you've got going on, and we'll put all of the links and everything in the show notes as well.
You go first, Bri.
Sure. So I always say the best place to hang out with me is on Instagram. If you are not a social media person, I do have a biweekly newsletter that goes out, which is my podcast. It's an update on my podcast, which is the Body Grievers Club. And I do a mix of individual and interviews. And I, as a neurospicy person, don't always love doing podcasts, but every single person who's worked with me has said, your podcast is an essential part of my healing story. And so we will keep making the podcast until y'all request us not to. I have so many different ways that you can enter my world. I have a freebie that is my 7-step guide. I have an ebook that's $7. And then I'm, at the time of this recording, enrolling into my Body Grievers course, which is being run differently than it has in the past. So you can go on my Instagram to find out more information, or you can check out the information on my website, bodyimagewithbri.com.
Slay. I love all of those things. Bri, you do have like so many ways to like work with you. It's like actually insane.
I mean, we've cut down those are the 3 ways right now. So
I love that.
my freebie, my ebook, or my course. That's it. Trying to simplify life.
I was going to say, you need that, like that simplicity. You have so many things going on. Yeah. I also, the best way to find me is on Instagram or TikTok at It's the Hope. I honestly am also a neurodivergent girly. So I'm sharing anything from ARFID recovery to me trying egg yolks. I don't know. To body image, to golf, like whatever is happening in my life. I really don't have a system over there anymore. Beach party. Yeah, party, like whatever. I'm just living life. And I think that's beautiful. That's it. But no, I am currently, at the time of this podcast being recorded, I'm updating my website. And I'm really excited because it's going to feature ways for me to be a speaker, for me to be a podcast guest on lots of different like avenues in this world of diet culture, anti-diet culture, and disordered eating. And so that's kind of where I'm leading into this new space of doing this work, is just sharing more advocacy efforts and talking about the not so sexy things.
I love that. Oh my gosh. Thank you both so much. Like I said, we'll put all of that in the show notes. But that is officially a wrap on our episode around body grief with Bri Campos and Cilla Moore-Massey. So thank you for joining us today. Be sure to tune in next week for another episode that you will not want to miss.
Yes, if you guys like what you saw or heard today, please follow us on Spotify or subscribe on Apple Podcasts. And if you're feeling super generous, please leave us a 5-star rating or a review so more people can find our show. We'll see you guys next week.
Hey guys.
Stop, Collaborate, and Listen is a space for real, honest conversations, but it's not a substitute for individualized care. Episodes may include discussions of eating disorders, mental health struggles, trauma, or other sensitive topics. Please take care while listening. The content shared here is for educational and informational purposes only and should not be taken as medical advice, a diagnosis, or a treatment plan. Listening to this podcast does not create a provider-client relationship, and while we speak from both professional training and lived experience, we're not here in the role of your personal healthcare team. If you're struggling with food, body image, or mental health, we encourage you to seek support from licensed, eating disorder-informed providers who can offer tailored care you deserve.